Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you've missed out on the first bit of our conversation on water and sanitation services. The Minister and the Deputy Minister are with us to discuss this with you at home. Hashtag TNA BizBrief at Morning Live SABC. And just before the break, I asked Deputy Minister about budgets, because we heard on the one side of the story the challenges that we have with aging infrastructure has been this movement of populations and unplanned and unforeseen urban migration. The infrastructure was not built for the kinds of population settings that we have now. But the other side, of course, has been, and we've seen this through audit reports, budgets are not being spent and sometimes being misspent. And I wonder, moving forward, how we manage that, because that is part of the problem as well, Deputy Minister.
You're right, Peter. Most of the time you get, municipalities that do not use their budget. And I think that's why Minister was talking about 10-year plan. I think one of the most critical areas is the bad planning of municipalities. I think the other thing that we should look at is the question of taking people without skills. And gone are those days of taking people because they are comrades. We need to make sure that you have a skill. And the problem that we're faced with is we take people that do not have skills. And then the other thing of the things that when I was, visiting with the minister to various provinces and most municipalities, you find an MM and a CFO who become now a politician. When you are an official, you cannot be a politician. So do your work, plan, and make sure that you achieve your goal. And we've agreed with the minister that she is going to take the difficult questions, I'll take the easy ones.
All right, so I'm gonna go to our tables here now, but Minister, there's a question that's been posed by IG Potonosi via Twitter, and I think this might help us with this conversation. It's a simple one. He says, stats. Just how many areas are still having poor sanitation and no water? What is the lay of the land right now?
We have provided to more than 97% of the South African population from 1994. We are now dealing with almost 2 million households. And some of them have to do with the informal areas that are in your metropolitan areas. And then we also have to deal with rural sanitation. A one-size-fits-all will no longer apply in the country. That's a game changer. Because the cost of laying infrastructure in the rural areas is too high. And therefore, the use of alternative technology is quite important. The use of alternative material is quite important. Secondly, we also are no longer looking just at the development of housing in isolation from bulk infrastructure. We're moving away from the neglect of our waterworks system. The good thing that the Zuma administration has done is to put together water and sanitation, even if I was not a minister. But now that I've had an exposure of what it means, it's the best to do. And it is in line with the National Development Plan. It's integrated. What we must do is to make sure that we've got lesser kings in this hierarchy and make sure that we've got many operational people. And hence the review of the Water Act, the review of the Water Services Act. We are repositioning even our water boards in South Africa such that these water boards can help in dealing with the backlog. We can't forever be talking about the backlog, which is a moving target. We must now plan forward. The NDP talks about 2030. We're saying on infrastructure for water and sanitation, we need 10-year plans. But of importance, we need capable men and women. We need resources. Thankfully, the Department of Water and Sanitation has been given authority as compared to many others, by National Treasury to generate resources that must help in the area of water and sanitation. And through the TCTA, that's how we are going to be working. The water boards themselves can be headless chickens as well. We are reining them in so that then they become a capacity that can focus on what needs to be done for the country. And there are going to be boards for water and sanitation so that then they can help us to deal with all these issues.
All right, and hopefully we'll hear from some of those boards. I know that there are some sitting at the tables at the back there, and we'll just get their side of the equation as well. But let's start going to our tables now. I'm going to ask 4 people to stand up and just ask their questions, starting at table number 3. Catherine, if you could stand up, just say your name and ask your question.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Catherine Nyaga. My question goes to Honorable Minister. What strategies does the Department of Water and Sanitation have on reducing water in flushable toilets? For example, if we take actually an average home, the highest water usage is 27%, which it just goes on flushable than anything else in the household. And just taking a city like Joburg from Statistics South Africa 2011, 1 million flushable toilets. We could have interventions and rigorous ways of saving water. And World Health Organization has people using the washrooms 5 days a week, 5 days a day. If we quickly work out that 1 million toilets saving 5 liters a day, that works out to 20 million liters per day, and in a month, 60 million a month. And this will really go away to moving on to informal sector, and also align it with the green economy, which I know water is part of it.
Just to get a bit of clarity on this, because I'm trying to follow this, and I'm not a bright guy by any stretch of the imagination. So just want you to simplify it. Are we saying that the flushable toilets that we have could be more efficient, or using alternative ways to get rid of waste?
We have technology that can work and intervene to reduce, for every flush, 1 liter of water. And remember, we have the old systems which were 13 liter and the 9 liter. And when we go to the malls which have the 2 knobs, the small and the big, we have no awareness on how to use. People have not been given awareness to when to press. So we are wasting water. We would be saving millions and millions of water every month around the country. And this can be moved on to informal sector and irrigation and other uses. And for every home, the highest consumption of water is actually
flushing the loo. All right, so I think she's put in a job application to come work in your department. But it is interesting, and I think you did start to touch on it. But let's just get the other 3 questions quickly, and then let's answer them all, because some of them might sort of overlap. Luvuyo is on table number 22. Luvuyo, table number 22.
Good morning, Minister and the audience. My name is Luvuyo Kobodo from Sitsukutsane Lu, that is a concrete VIP toilets company. My question would be, how can the SMEs be assisted in sanitation space, that is manufacturing, because this sector is being occupied by white companies. I think I'll wait for the answer. Thanks.
Okay, so procurement for SMMEs, a big concern for you. Patricia, you're on table number 6. If you could stand up and say your name.
My name is Patricia. My name is Patricia. Honorable Minister, what is your plan regarding the rural areas? They are still using the bucket toilets and there's no water. When I went
Put the microphone closer to your mouth. Closer to your mouth.
What is your plan regarding the rural area? They are still using the bucket, there's no water. I went down to my hometown whereby I still relieve myself behind the rocks and under the trees. Thank you.
Which area is that?
Okay, and then finally, John, table 26. If you could stand up, say your name. John, table 26.
John is gone.
Is he gone?
Dear Minister and Deputy,
okay.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Mahoboko, Public Relations Manager, Viva Engineering Project. I want to begin by saying, in her wisdom, the Minister has successfully endeavored to overarch some of the questions that one would have wanted to pinpoint. But to be more precise, Usutu Val fresh up water system are the lifeline of most, if not all, the power stations. And of great concern is that it is a fact our infrastructure is fatigued and almost in the evening of its lifeline. And I would want to believe that with competent service providers loaded with experience, engineering experience, of course, what are the measures that the Minister has proactively in place to ensure that the issues of reactive capacity in cases of emergency, in cases of the pipeline bursts, where we, in particular in the Usutu, we have the critical pipelines. What are measures that the Minister has in place to ensure sustainability of the refurbishment and the rehabilitation of such critical infrastructure and infrastructure pipelines?
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. Let's start unpacking those questions. The first one was about water-saving strategies, employing new technologies. We're wasting a lot of water just flushing. And that's just apart from leakages that are coming through the systems. Your thoughts?
I think in my opening remarks, I did raise those issues. 4 days after being appointed, we called the Water Research Commission of the Department of Water to initiate a summit. We had a summit. We called everybody and we said we need to create a water and sanitation family. And amongst the immediate tasks then that came out was that let's invite as many partners as possible. Let's bring people who are in the IT. Let's bring people who are in science and technology. Let's bring local government into the space, the private sector, to look at the use of alternative technology. That's what I've been harping on, in short, if you pick up what Catherine was saying. All she's saying is that let's move away from what has been a norm in South Africa because it has been an irresponsible behavior. We need to change that practice. And we fully agree with her. And hence, the work that has been done, even on sanitation, to deal with the backlog in the rural areas, saying let's look at the alternative sanitation solutions, not only for the rural areas, but even for the urban areas. Let's reuse, let's recycle, let's conserve, but most importantly, let's design our infrastructure, including the toilet structure. You know, before I was the Minister for Water and Sanitation, I used to frown upon talking about water and particularly issues of sanitation every second conversation. But those are the things that we must now put on the table. The flow of water, not only in terms of sanitation, running your bathtub and all those things. We need to educate society. We need to raise awareness. ensure that things are done differently. What we're going to do also, Peter, is that in the next week or so, before you go on holiday, we're going to open up the procurement process of the Department of Water and Sanitation. We're going to call for submissions and bring in new role players. We also need new blood. We also need women. We also need those that have been closed outside to come in and be part of finding the solutions. And we're changing our supply chain systems. We want legal experts. We want professionals. We want service providers like Setsukutsani, like Usutu, to also come in. Innovation is the way to go now. We want to promote innovation. The Department of Science and Technology is our strategic partner. We can't create capacity in water when there is a department. We are partnering with the Department of Small Business to also say, give us more people. Let them move away from supplying us with bread and water. Let there also be an opportunity for them to deal with maintenance and all those things, but no fronting. And hence the issues of joint ventures, the issues of capacity, the issues of making sure that we've got the skills through the Department of Higher Education, but also accreditation of those who have the means.
So typically what that SMME must do, wait for this tender to come through, and beyond that, how does he engage?
What you can do is to also interact through the Department of Small Business Development, because it will be our conveyor belt of making sure that people are being assisted with the norms and standards of coming in. And then with us, it will be around the sector itself.
All right, so rural areas.
The rural areas, we've spoken about the work that we are doing in the rural communities. If I can say here, one province that we think has got an integrated plan to deal with issues of water and sanitation and dealing with the rural areas is KwaZulu-Natal. And we're taking that model that exists in the Office of the Premier and what we are now doing with the province of the Free State in ensuring that there's integration. We are dealing with those areas, and some of the solutions, by the way, are solutions that have failed somewhere, and people believe they can bring them in South Africa. We want the current that is functional, that is viable, that is sustainable, because that's part of the problem.
Just before you go there, CD Tsilande is saying that the NDP seems to be prioritizing urban areas over rural. Is that true?
No, I don't know where CD got that NDP, but the South African National Development Plan actually says something different. No. It actually says there has to be more investment on rural development, but also appreciate that urbanization is a reality. You can't, it's a global phenomenon, so we need to look at that. In the work that we are doing, in fact, and where we have been focusing, was to deal with the Jozini Dam, which was a single-purpose dam that has been there over 30 years, in 64 days. Without us, none of us are engineers. She's a nurse, I'm just a politician. We opened that dam, and it is now beginning to provide water to the communities of Umkanyagud, who over these years were just seeing this dam that was providing water for irrigation. We want to bring those game changers. Our people can't just watch water develop and ZZ2 in Limpopo. Actually, even owning part of our rivers, it can't be like that. And it is those game changers that we are bringing in. We're even saying, remember, the primary owner of water in South Africa is this government, and it's me. What then has to happen is that when we now look at the issuing of new licenses and the development of new dams, it can't only be for the economy. It must also be for a Madlamini in Kanyagute, for a Mrs. Mukoni somewhere in PTD Sulejwang, so that then they don't just see the pipes going into the platinum mines and not stopping in their own villages in the northwest. We can all be excited about the platinum, but traditional leaders are our partners. Women are our partners. Village communities are our partners. And that's the game change. We're opening holes on all these single-purpose dams and say, let us make sure that our people also benefit. The acid mine drainage, I come from Kagiso. What the gold mines have done in the West Rand And what we are now dealing with is again what we don't want to see with the new mines that are coming out. And hence, when we deal with the issuing of water licenses, we are putting new conditions to say you will take responsibility of recycling the one that we give you and give us the potable so that we distribute for domestic use. It is those kind of game changers. It can't be business as usual. The private sector must now subsidize those villages. The traditional leaders can't forever be complaining. Mzimvubu in the Eastern Cape must come into being. It's a major, people think about the arms procurement and stuff. Mzimvubu is a major investment that is going to just ignite life in the Eastern Cape.
I'm going to rush us along a little bit because I'm mindful of time, but we have some key infrastructure that needs to make sure that is maintained and looked after. Are there plans in place in case there's an emergency to fix things very quickly and get over those hurdles?
We need that. There hasn't been an integrated maintenance plan in South Africa, and that's why we have had problems. 2, we need to deal with vandalism and theft. The problem that we saw in Gauteng, in some parts of Gauteng now in the recent past, had to do with a problem of theft and a problem of poor communication and management. It is those things that we definitely have to deal with. Very soon, we will also be dealing with securing our dams, securing our resources so that then they are not vandalized. We're talking with the criminal justice system as well, that theft of cable, vandalism of our dams and reservoirs can't just be a petty crime. It must be seen as economic sabotage. And we definitely want to deal with those issues. Many of you in the media, when we were dealing with the problem that was in the parts of Gauteng, people were already saying there's a water crisis, there's a disaster in South Africa. But when the law enforcement agencies arrested those men who had stolen cable and were carrying it with an X5 BMW, Porsche cars, living in the leafy suburbs, it was not in the front pages. And when we kept saying it's a criminal act, it's an economic offense, that young man who said to me, I'm unfair, when I said it's a criminal offense, was not doing work for himself. He was paying the master who lives in the leafy suburbs. We must now follow this crime. We must now make sure that they're prosecuted. It can't be a petty offense. Our magistrates must not be intolerant. Our investigators must have a watertight crime case so that we deal with these issues. Security is important. Our people must know, when you are angry with us not building a road, don't destroy a reservoir. It's so senseless because it is yours. When you have a problem about your ward council, wait for the next elections and vote him out. Don't destroy. But we must also deal with corruption, where there's collusion between our own officials and those who have seen business opportunities by sabotaging water like in Madibeng, like in Ngakamudiri, where water tankering has been seen as a new way of doing business. We're not going to allow that. Water tankering will be used for emergency and for areas where water will not be availed. But for these things that have happened in Ngaka, for these things that have happened in Mupane, for these things that have happened in Mokgalakwen, we must deal with the municipal manager, we must deal with the councillors that collude, we must deal with everybody because it is at the cost of an ordinary Madlamini in the village.
All right, we're going to take a break just now, but before that, one question that's come up is relooking the entire landscape of ownership, because you're talking about private and public partnership, but a lot of water is owned by private hands,
which is wrong.
And I want to get an answer for that, but I need to take a quick break first. Okay. And when we come back, let's talk about how that landscape is going to change. All of that's still to come, and we'll get your tweets as well.